preseason camp related?
That's a little bit more fall camp when we get into the full speed return stuff. Today, what we did, we had some live punt scenarios. So I think we got 12 total punts in that were full speed reps, 2 of which were full cover, one in each segment. And then we did 2 sky punt scenarios where, we were looking at down the ball inside the 10-yard line. Those were also full speed, full cover. That was one focus. And the other focus, we did what we call combat zone compete, which simulates kickoff return versus kickoff cover, but in a shorter area or shorter space. So not coverage of the whole field, but a short area drill work to simulate the blocking and then getting off blocks from a kickoff cover standpoint.
Next will be Aslan Hajimandi from Warchant.
John, Quayshawn's a guy that you got some really explosive plays out of last season. I think back-to-back series against Notre Dame, Clemson, he comes in and has a good play for you. We really haven't kind of heard his name from you or Coach Fuller. Coach Fuller talked about consistency. I know if you knew the answer, you could just write a book and retire, but how do you let these kids, how do they develop consistency? Is it just drilling it? Is it a mental thing? Do they want it? I mean, and how's Quayshawn's sort of individual journey coming along?
Look, we've seen it, and you referenced it, and we've seen it on a day-to-day basis. That Quayshawn is a talented player. He has a lot of tools that would allow him to be a very good player in this defense. When we talk about consistency, what we're looking for is not just the mental part of the game, but the approach to how you come out every single day to practice. Football is a practice-driven sport, different than a lot of other sports, obviously, that are out there, baseball or basketball, where you have a lot of different games. A lot of the evaluation that we get is off of what it looks like from Monday to Friday leading up to a game. And, I think for him to take the next step, which I've seen some positive steps in the right direction, is just that day in and day out consistency. And, and it's hard to keep a mental edge every day. That's why so few guys can do it. But the ones that are great find a way to do it. And that's what we're looking for.
With Derrick, I mean, we talked to him the other day and obviously expressed a lot of confidence in his ability. He played a good bit last year and he did contribute. He had some success, but how different is he now, from just those last 6 months or so?
Derrick's made a lot of progress as a player. And, I think he kind of put some of his confidence on display a little bit with you guys the other day, but I also think that's what gives him a little bit of an edge, because he does believe in himself and his abilities. And, the thing that I appreciate about him and why I think he's gotten so much better over the course of the time that we've been here is because he does come out and work every day. Derrick's a worker. And, he takes a lot of pride in how he performs. Whether we're in drill work or we're in a team period, his energy, his passion to play is always, at a high level. And, I think that's why he's been able to make the most of his time here to this point, is because he works so hard. And I think that's why he is confident, because he trusts the work that he's putting in.
We'll go to Ira for follow-up.
Actually, I want to go back to those drills you were talking about, where the coverage unit and the return unit. I think we see you guys do some things like that during practice, and it's from a layman's perspective, it's hard sometimes to know exactly what you guys are looking for. We can tell who gets complimented after the rep. How much of it is technique and how much of it is effort? Like, what are you guys looking for in those drills?
Both. I mean, to answer your question, we want to see guys that get put in a one-on-one competitive situation, that are willing to compete. So the effort obviously is a huge part of it. But to me, if both guys are giving great effort, then it does come down to the technique part of it. And that's what we're trying to build through those drills, is a confidence and an understanding of the techniques that allow you to be successful in special teams. So, for example, the one that we did today, to get more specific, when we talk combat zone compete, we're talking about that point in time in the kickoff coverage where you don't have space to run around blocks anymore. You know, you're closing in on the returner. Now it's about two gapping the blocker and getting off blocks. But from a blocking perspective, it's about trying to create space for the returner. So it's a little bit more of a physical nature, but that's why we close the distance off to try to not have those high impact collisions in a practice setting. You know, it's an important part of our fundamental progression. Like you'll see us do those one-on-one drills with kickoff and kickoff return. Some of those we call speed zone compete, which you're trying to avoid the block because you have a lot of time and space between where you are and the kick returner is. And then the combat zone is when you don't have that same time and space and you're trying to two gap and not create lanes by running around blocks. So we'll focus on different elements of it. Today was a combat zone focus.
Next question will be Perry from Tomahawk Nation.
Coach, you touched on the fact that like this isn't full special teams, it's just spring. Does that result in a little bit of fall off in the energy there? Does the competition just naturally erupt from the fact that you don't want to get juked out and embarrassed in front of your entire team?
No, I think from a competitive standpoint, it probably ratchets it up some of the juice and emotion because you are in a one-on-one competitive situation where we keep score. So like the next day after every practice, the winners and losers are posted with every rep that we have in these one-on-one competitions. So there is no place to hide. You know, sometimes on a team rep, you can hide and not get exposed, you know, whether you did your job or didn't do your job. Maybe only the coach would ever see that. But when you're put in that one-on-one competitive situation, there's really all that your teammates are watching. I mean, that's it. And, you know, that's one of the reasons we do that is to create that environment of competition between the players, but also to put guys out there in a position where we can see them and make a decision whether they're ready to help us or not yet, based off how they compete in the one-on-ones.
All right, we'll go back to Aslan.
Coach, you've got a lot on your plate. I don't think you could fit it all on a business card. You know, ends, kick game, punt game, returns. What's like the one singular thing over your entire domain of responsibility? What's like the one singular thing you're seeing right now that you're like, man, we are much better and improved here than we were last year?
Well, that's a great question. You know, I really have liked our approach and how we're going after our daily work in our special teams phases. And the thing that I like to see is whatever the point of emphasis is for that day, whether it's a correction or something that we try to highlight as a specific thing that we want to see get accomplished that day, you see a response from the players. And to me, that means there's a high level of buy-in in terms of belief in what we're trying to do. And to me, that's what I've enjoyed the most is just to see a daily improvement in the fundamental work that relates to our special teams.
All right, next will be Ira.
Now that you know, there's still, obviously it's only April, their first semester on campus, but now that you've seen these young defensive ends and young defensive linemen, the freshmen that came in, you know, I guess how have you been impressed by them so far?
You know, I've really been impressed by the 4 freshmen that came in mid-year. You know, sometimes it's easy out there on the practice field or in the meeting room to treat them all kind of the same because that's how we approach the work. But these guys should be seniors in high school, you know, and for the most part, they don't look out of place in any situation out on the field. And it's probably the furthest ahead as a group I've ever had a group of freshmen defensive linemen come in and compete. You know, so I have a high level of respect for the way they're working. It's such a different world for them to transition from high school to college and to come in and work and compete the way they are. I think Daniel Lyons, Bishop, Hester, Dante Anderson, those guys have all done a really, really good job at this point.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Thank you, guys.
Recording stopped.